I'm Stas Margaronis, ports reporter with the American Journal of Transportation, and I'm speaking today with Sang Yi, the CEO of the American Association of Port Authorities. Sang is in Washington, D.C. Sang, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Stas. Great to join you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. Sang, one of the issues that we've been talking about is the ongoing advocacy around PIDP and other key maritime grants as the Surface Transportation Authorization progresses. How do you see this rolling out?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Stas. This is an incredible time in the maritime industry, generally speaking. This is I'm going on my third month on this job. And as you know, I was most recently the Deputy Maritime Administrator, which was quite an honor to hold that position. And in that role, I worked very closely with ports, and the PIDP program was one of the most important things that MARAD does. If you look at MARAD's budget, it takes up a significant portion of the budget. And you ask people what their priorities are, you can find out by seeing where the money is. And over the last several years, PIDP, as you know, has been supplemented by IGEM money, and so has reached about over $500 million. FY26, the NOFO is out. FY25, we did the awards before my departure there. So I actually got to lead the senior review team for the PIDP FY25. And then I worked on the NOFO for the 26. And I'll tell you that I got to say this at the outset about PIDP, and it's something that I mentioned often when I was still the Deputy Maritime Administrator. First of all, if you look at competitors like countries like China, they invest over $2 billion a year in ports all over the world outside of China. And when you come back and we're talking about $500 million for our ports in the United States, that doesn't sound like a lot. This is a woefully underfunded program. It is an amazingly important program, and we need to keep it going, and we need to increase it, but it is clearly underfunded. So what's happening in the future right now is a little bit of a question mark. I know that the administration is working very hard to try to push their legislative proposals from the Maritime Action Plan and the executive order from President Trump. And so those legislative proposals also include what they call the Maritime Security Trust Fund. And that trust fund is supposed to hopefully house the PIDP program, which could then become a bigger program. I was actually with the Maritime Administrator just before coming to see you today, and we talked a little bit about PIDP and the need for that. And it's also to not just increase the standard types of investments that we need for our ports, but also innovative investments. And then on top of that, other needs. Cranes have been a large topic, right? We talk about the security for cranes, and our ports do a great job ensuring that the cybersecurity risks are mitigated. But we also talk a lot with the White House on domestic crane manufacturing and what it takes to do that. Obviously, we can't just get rid of cranes from certain countries overnight because there is no domestic capacity right now. But those are the types of things we're working on. And we have some of the great crane manufacturers who are members at AAPA as well. And we're working closely with them. And we're trying to figure out how PIDP and those types of dollars can also support that. But again, the pie needs to grow. And we've been doing a lot of advocacy on the Hill for FY27 and beyond, and to talk about why the PIDP program is so important and why we need more investment in our ports.
Very good. Okay. Would cranes be a big priority in an enlarged PIDP, in your opinion?
Well, so when I was a Deputy Maritime Administrator, I actually awarded a PIDP grant to Guam, Port of Guam, who actually is an AAPA member. Guam is a strategic seaport.
Sure.
And they had some aging cranes, and this has probably become a national security risk that these cranes were not going to be fully operable. And so there's a lot of military cargo that obviously goes through Guam. This is why the work of like AAPA is so important, because I keep reminding people this is not only about our economic prosperity in the United States, but it's also about our national security. And to invest in ports is to invest in our national security. And the example exactly is what Guam is. So those two cranes alone cost almost $60 million. And so that was a significant portion of that PIDP pot for that year. And so, yes, cranes can be part of it, especially in cases like that. But in the future, a lot of our cranes are going to have to be replaced. There's a lot of them are aging. The order books are so full that it takes years to come in, and obviously the administration understands that too. So we've been talking to them and highlighting that issue about why this is a national security issue. So hopefully that also bolsters our argument why we need more PIDP grant money.
Sang, was that 16 or $60 million you said?
60, 60.
60, 60.
These,
Okay.
these cranes are very expensive.
Okay. One of the issues that we have discussed is the issue of Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, ship channel dredging, and the status of WARDA. Where are we on this for 2026?
Yeah, Stas, so this is a very important topic. So thank you for asking about it. I'm going to back up a little bit to my time as a deputy maritime administrator as well. Dredging at these ports is so important. We talk about wanting to build these ports for the future, but if we don't have the channels that are deep and wide enough to handle the ships of the future, then forget about it. We're going to be further behind, and trade is going to stop. It is going to slow down because we don't have the right infrastructure. So that is a major point. I want to say too that my time at MARAD, I witnessed a lot about federal advocacy. And I want to say that our government relations team at the American Association of Port Authorities is probably the premier. We've done an excellent job. This team, I'm very proud of them. In my short time here, I can tell immensely what the value is to the membership. And I know that the WARDA bill in the House is looking really good. We got good three of our priorities that we really wanted to push have made it into the House bill, and very optimistic about it getting passed. And so we're continuing to work on that with the Senate as well. But we're going to basically make sure that the Army Corps is more communicative with us. And it's also helpful that I have some good friends over there. The Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Lee Forsgren, he and I have known each other for over 2 decades. And so we've also paid him a visit, and we're delighted that he's been visiting a lot of our members. One of our members, as you know, the Port of Virginia, they now have the widest and deepest channel in the Eastern Seaboard. So that is a huge win. But in this WARDA bill, we're also making sure that non-federal sponsors can continue to contribute funds to cover cost overruns. And we're also going to make sure that we're going to strengthen the donor and energy transfer port program. So at the end of the day, it's very important for us that we have a predictable and full schedule here for dredging.
Saying one of the concerns that I've heard from West Coast ports is that they put in more than they've gotten out. And I know that the former port director, Mario Cordero, at the Port of Long Beach, was very active on that front. Is that issue being redressed?
By redress, if you mean that we're going to be continuing to address it, yes. I mean, we want to make sure that ports get their fair share, and but like I said, this has to be a more a robust program, and it's more predictable. That is something that the Army Corps and I have already discussed. We want to make sure that we're part of the solution there. We're also trying to figure out how AAPA can help on dredging windows, and how our voice can be more highlighted there. We have the industry know-how, we have the industry experience, and it's our job in that sense to tell the government what we need. I kept telling people when I was in the government, I go around all over the country and I kept reminding people that I worked for them. And they would say, oh, well, you're the deputy administrator. I said, yes, but your tax dollars pay for me to be here. and I'm here to listen to you. And I like to remind our government officials now that uh, this industry, especially if you think about, like, for instance, specifically the Maritime Administration. I know we're talking about the Army Corps, but specifically the Maritime Administration. The law says that that agency is created to promote, develop, and foster the maritime industry of the United States.
Right.
That's a very unique mission set. And so I take this job with a very serious burden that we need to ensure that our elected officials, that our key policymakers, that are executive branch officials, they understand what the needs of this industry are. And the way that we project that could be completely change the landscape of how our industry looks in the future.
Okay. Very good. Sang, one of the issues that you guys have raised is the issue of security and drone mitigation. And
Mhm.
I'd like to ask you, how serious a problem is this, and what do you think needs to be done?
Yeah, so it is a very serious problem, and we have been out and very much supportive of Representative Petronus's bill to help mitigate this risk issue. This is not just and we've also provided comment to the FAA about this, and I've talked to some of my former colleagues at DOT about this issue. The concern is not just that there's a security issue in terms of you know secrets or data or information tracking. The other concern is also a physical security issue. You have cruise ships now that can carry 5,000, 10,000 people. You've seen, and we've all seen videos of what drones can do now. Look at the war in Ukraine. These drones are causing insane amount of damage for this tiny little $10,000 drone. What we see at ports, and when some of our ports experience a high rate of drones that are, maybe some of them are hobbyist, but others we're not so sure, it should concern all of us as Americans. If you think about the potential loss of life, that is catastrophic. And I'll say, in addition to the loss of life potential there, if that happened at a port, it could stop commerce at our maritime ports all over the coast. So
Absolutely.
this is a very serious issue. We need early detection. We need to make sure that we can clear that space. We need to make sure the ports are equipped with the ability to mitigate that risk. And that's why we take this very seriously. And the AAPA is very supportive of Representative Patronus's bill.
And Sang, what kind of money are we talking about for this?
Well, it's also part regulatory, right? So it's going to be people being able to give the ports an ability um, to use their enforcement mechanisms, right? It's not so much about the funds associated with it. And I was speaking with the chairman of the subcommittee on readiness at the House Armed Services Committee. And so national security is definitely his bread and butter. And this Congressman Jack Bergman, who's also a retired Marine Corps general, he got this issue right away. And after our first meeting on this topic, he immediately agreed to be a co-sponsor of that bill. So this is not just about money. It's about the action and ability to mitigate.
Very good. Sang, the AAPA annual convention is almost upon us. You're meeting in New Orleans at the end of September. Can
Yes.
you tell us what are some of the issues that you're going to be raising at the convention?
Sure. Well, it'll be September 28th through 30th in New Orleans. And it's so far sizing up to be perhaps one of the largest annual conventions we've ever had at AAPA. We have a jam-packed agenda. We have some incredible senior government officials and corporate leaders and maritime industry leaders coming. I know that one of the marquee sessions we're going to hold also is with Administrator Steve Carmel, or Captain Carmel, as he likes to be called.
Okay.
And but we're going to have him, the Port of Long Beach, and the Port of Corpus Christi, and also Core Power and Blue Core, who are two SMR companies for small modular reactors, have a discussion about the new future of ports and being powered by SMRs. In fact, the other day I was privileged enough to be invited to a memorandum of cooperation signing ceremony at the Maritime Administration. It's a pretty historic signing. And I was very proud because I was still the Deputy Maritime Administrator when I went out to visit the Port of Long Beach. And it's amazing what happens when you just have people with open minds and enthusiasm be in a room together. So I was with the port CEO, Dr. Noel Hasagaba, who is also obviously an AAPA member, and the president of his board of commissioners, Frank Colonna. And the three of us sat in that room and discussed about how we can work together. And I remember saying to them, what if we, Marriott and Port of Long Beach, have an MOU about SMRs? And they said, we might be open to that. And I remember calling Steve Carmel on my way to the airport. And I said, I think we should do an MOU with Port of Long Beach about SMRs. And he said, that's great. He's like, because we were putting out an RFI, and to see that moment come to fruition the other day was pretty amazing. So now, come September, that's going to be one of our panels. And in addition to that, we also have the Department of Homeland Security coming, an assistant secretary. We also have the assistant secretary of transportation for freight and flow coming and to discuss cargo. We will have the OMB, Office of Management and Budget for the White House, Dr. Jerry Hendricks. He's going to come and speak about maritime and the conditions and state of maritime out there. He's pretty much been one of the top leaders in the government for all things maritime. And so we're really looking forward to having him there. And we have so many great people coming from all over the government. And then on top of that, we're going to talk about some futuristic stuff. There's discussion about innovative technologies. There's also going to be discussions about security, obviously. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Very good. Sang, this sounds like a very interesting event. I wish you the best. It will be your first convention as CEO, and best wishes from us that this is successful. I'm sure it will be, and thank you very much for your time.
Well,
I am
thank you, Stas. I really appreciate the American Journal of Transportation and you and what you do for this industry. You know, I always tell people I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and for my entire adult life, I've been trying to explain to people what the Merchant Marine is. And it occurs to me, you know, it occurs to me that one of the issues in advocacy we have is that the common public is not very familiar with this maritime industry, and the common public doesn't think about what ports mean to their daily lives. They don't think about ships. It doesn't occur to them. And so we have to keep spreading that message. We have to make sure that people understand how important this is to our national security and our economic prosperity. And publications like yours help get that message across, because it's not just about being newsworthy. It's not just about, dollars and cents. It's about life, and it's about our supply chain and about our security. And we as a country wouldn't have been able to even prosper to where we are today, 250 years later, had not we been such a dominant maritime country. And we need to become that again.
Sang, thank you very much for those words. I appreciate it very much. I'm Stas Margaronis. We've been talking to Sang Yi. He is the new CEO at the American Association of Port Authorities, and their convention will be happening in September in New Orleans, and all of us should be there paying attention. Sang, thank you very much. We will see you again soon.
Thank you.